Okay, I think I got something. I think I got a premise for a video. I don't know if it'll be entertaining at all, but I have a premise for a video, because the other day I was thinking, I'm like, man, I want to tell another story on the vlog channel, and I was walking around town, and I was just going through my mental Rolodex of all of the most important stuff that's happened to me in my life. I'm like, did I tell that story? Yes. Did I tell about that story? Yeah, what about that story? Yeah, I'm like, shit, man, I've been doing this for so long. I've been on YouTube for almost, like, 11 years, actually. It'll be 11 years this Friday. I've been on YouTube. May 29th, 2009 is when I started the first channel. So I'm like, man, I've gone through like every major fucking story I have. I mean, I could always make something up again, like some bullshit story. I've done that before. I ever tell you about that time I teamed up with Harrison Ford to go find that Buddha statue in Machu Picchu? Yeah, that was a Buddha statue in Machu Picchu. That's the interesting part of the story. But no, I could do that. But I wanted to tell an actual story, all right? So just now, I got back from the grocery store. I was getting some stuff for dinner tomorrow and some other stuff we were out of, and I was driving back home, and I got to an intersection in town. And it was one of those intersections that has the, it has like the regular stoplight, but there's also like an additional orange arrow that just flashes at the stoplight. I don't know if you've ever seen those before. They just recently added it like last year because this is kind of a busy intersection, so they wanted to have this extra thing. Basically, if that orange arrow is flashing, if there is no traffic coming in the opposite direction, then you can turn, even if it's not green, but just kind of assume caution. Now, I usually don't even bother with that orange arrow, and I just wait until it turns green, and then I, go. If there's absolutely, like, if I arrive at the intersection and there's no cars coming, then I go, if it's orange. But, otherwise, if there's cars coming, even if there's only a few cars, I'm just like, fuck it. I don't have to be anywhere. I'm not in a hurry. I'll just wait until it turns green. Well, I'm sitting there at the intersection, and it's flashing orange, and there's a few cars coming, so I'm like, I'll just wait till it turns green. So I'm there, I'm thinking about some stuff. I actually have to get my car looked at because of some brake issues. But anyway, I'm sitting there, and then I just hear a whoop whoop behind me, and I look in my rear view, and there's a fucking cop car right behind me. And I'm like, oh, fuck, what do I do? Because I'm like, his lights aren't on, but he does the whoop whoop, and I'm like, shit. Okay, so I'm like, all right, well, I guess I can go as long as there's no cars coming. So I'm waiting, but there's still cars coming, and then that one car goes, and I'm like, all right, I guess I'll go. So I start to pull up to kind of turn, and the second I pull up, and I'm like right in the middle of the damn crosswalk, not in the middle of the road, but like right where the crosswalk is, I'm not supposed to be there, then the light turns to a red arrow, like, don't turn at all, and I'm like, fuck! Now what do I do? Do I keep turning? I'm in the process of turning, but I'm not really, like, if I was in the middle of the entire intersection, then I would just keep going, I guess, because I'm already in the process of doing that. It actually is more, like, dangerous, like, to stop in the middle of, like, a four-way intersection. So I'm not quite at that point yet, but I'm, like, further up than I need to be, and it turns red, and there's a fucking cop car behind me, and I'm like, fuck, I'm gonna get pulled over. Shit. So I stop. I stop the car. I'm in the middle of a crosswalk. There's nobody coming in the crosswalk, but I'm in the middle of a crosswalk. Cop car's still behind me, and I'm like, fuck. So I'm in the middle of a crosswalk, so I pop my car in reverse, and I just scooch back a little bit, so I'm no longer parked in the crosswalk, and I'm waiting, and the cop car behind me, the lights are off, he's not doing the horn anymore, and I'm like, shit. The second that light turns green, I'm gonna turn, and he's gonna pull right behind me, and he's gonna fly up the lights, and I'm gonna get pulled over, and he's gonna be like, what are you doing? I'm like, shit. So light finally turns green, and I turn left, and I'm like, I'm waiting for it, I'm looking at him behind me, and he's not putting the lights on. Then he puts on another turn signal, and he turned on another road, and I was like, oh, thank God. I'm like, shit, because I don't think I did anything wrong. I don't know, maybe he was in a hurry, maybe he had another call he was going to, and he's just like, hey, you can turn on the orange arrow, you can go, whoop, whoop, come on, I have somewhere I need to be, and I'm like, I'm sorry, I didn't even notice there was a cop car behind me, honestly. But I feel like if I would have kept going even after the light turned red, then he probably would have stopped me. But needless to say, whenever you have a moment with that even if the police don't actually pull you over, whenever you have a moment like that where you're like, there's a cop car behind you, I don't know, you get a little nervous on the rest of the drive home, okay? And then I finally realized, well, I could do a YouTube video on all of the times that I've had to deal with the police. They're not all that interesting, I don't think. Like, I've never gotten into a high-speed police chase with a cop, so if you're waiting for that, like, well, let me tell you, during my high school days, no, I don't have anything like that, but, a few times in my life, I've had to deal with the police, either, through traffic or through other means, so I can go through all of the times in my life. I think I only got about maybe 2 or 3 stories, excluding the one I just told, but, and in my entire life, I've only gotten 1 ticket. That's one of the stories. But yeah, so we'll talk about that, and if you want to talk about maybe some interesting moments that you've had, like got pulled over, or why did you get pulled over, or maybe some weird interactions you've had with a police officer before, let me know in the comments below. So that's what we're doing today. All right, so first stealing I've had with a police officer was not involving traffic or a car or anything like that. It was actually at my house. So one time, and I actually have video proof of this. This actually happened during one of the Halloween segments I was doing, like Horrorween or whatever I was calling it. It was when I was doing a review of Hellsing. Yeah, big fan. You always see Alucard hanging out back here. I'm a big Hellsing Ultimate fan. Well, for one Halloween, I think it was back in 2013, I was doing a video on the Hellsing series, and, I get all dressed up in my studio, and I'm wearing, like, my vampire Tekking outfit, so, like, my pinstripe shirt and my red tie, and because it's Hellsing, I also took a dry erase marker and very poorly drew Alucard's, like, pentagram with the writing around it on my hand, right? So I'm in my studio, and it's like late at night, and I'm the only one in the house at this point. My mom was somewhere else. I think at her boyfriend's or something. So I'm alone in the house filming this, okay? And it's probably like 8 or 9 o'clock at night. Now, the studio where I film everything is actually like the front room of our house. Like, the front door is in my studio. And it was originally supposed to be a sunroom, but I just changed it into that, right? Now, most people, when they visit, you just go to the back door, but, somebody that's never been to my house before would just knock on the front door. So I'm in there doing a YouTube video talking about Hellsing and shit, talking about, like, him, like, turning it, like, this awesome demonic vampire ripping apart people, blood everywhere! And then I look out my window and I see cop car pull up in front of my house. And I'm like, the fuck? And I look out there, and I can't tell if he's, there for one of my neighbors, because a bunch of houses all together, but it seems like he's parked somewhat in front of my house. So I'm sitting there, and I'm waiting, and then he walks, I could see him get out of the cop car and walk up my sidewalk, up on my porch, and I'm thinking, okay, he's gonna talk to me, and I'm like, oh shit, I have a fucking pentagram drawn on my hand. Now, if you go back and watch the video, I freak the fuck out, and I'm like, oh fuck, 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 fuck. And I went back and saw some of the comments for that video. I'm like, Matt, why were you freaking out that much that you had a pentagram on your hand? Like, he can't arrest you for that. And yeah, now looking back on it, I'm like, yeah, that was kind of an overreaction, because it's not like, the police officer would open up and see me dressed up like a stupid-ass fucking vampire with a pentagram drawn on my hand, but it's like, okay, well, anyway, blah, blah, blah. I was like, well, son, I'm going to arrest you for being a weeb. Get in the car. He opens the door, he just looks at me and just, are you one of these cosplayers? I'm like, yes, sir, I am. What are you cosplaying? Hell, I'm trying to be Alucard from Hellsing. Oh, son, you are not even near as cool as Alucard. Get in. I'm going to arrest you just for that alone. And it's like, he's not going to do it. But it's a police officer, and I have a fucking pentagram drawn on my hand. A little bit of embarrassment, maybe. Just a little bit. So I hurry up and I throw a glove on my hand or whatever, and then I answer the door. And you don't see the police officer in the video. You hear him, though. And I guess he was called for a domestic disturbance from one of my neighbors. One of my neighbors, I think, was making a lot of noise, and then somebody else called the police and be like, hey, there's a lot of noise. We don't know where it's coming from. So he's knocking on my door, and he's asking me, he's like, hey, do you know who lives in this house? And he points to my next door neighbor. I was so fucking just jarred, because this was the first time I've ever had to deal with a police officer in my life, that he said your next door neighbor, and I immediately thought of the house across the street that had been vacant for 4 years. And I was like, oh, yeah, they moved like 4 years ago. And he's like, oh, okay. But then he left, and I started, oh, he pointed at a completely different house. So he's like, hey, do you know who lives here? Yeah, who lives over there? Oh, it's been empty for 4 years. Like, I was so fucking nervous. He just kind of looked at me, and he's like, okay, oh, yeah, I think he also asked me if my parents were home. Even if this was 2013, I would have been 20 years old. He still asks me, of course, is your mom or dad home? Because, of course, you know, you answer the door, I'm dressed like a fucking fancy vampire, you know, recording something for YouTube. And I probably, at age 20, I probably looked like I'm 15. At age 27, how old would you say I look? Can you give me 20? Can you at least give me that much? At age fucking 20, I probably looked like I was 15 or younger. So, yeah, he's like, hey, your mom or dad home? I'm like, no, she's not. How can I help you? So I was extraordinarily nervous. He finally leaves, and my heart is like, oh, God, fuck. You know, I don't know why I was that nervous by it. It's just somebody coming to your house and just like a police officer's there and like, why is he there? You know, is he trying to do something? Because I think I was worried that I was maybe being too loud. Maybe I was being too loud and some neighbor. I eventually found out, yeah, it was a neighbor. There was another. I'm not going to go too far into it because that's their business, not mine. But yeah, it wasn't because of me, but still, I get worried because I'm like, I'm making a lot of noise, and it was later in the day. Usually, when I film, like, the chapter reviews, tomorrow I gotta film a One Piece review, I usually do that at, like, 11 o'clock in the morning or noon, and I don't ever hear any complaints from it. I might maybe weird out some of my neighbors, you know, whenever somebody new moves into the neighborhood, be like, why is that kid yelling about pirates, you know, but this was late at night, so I thought maybe one of the neighbors called for, like, maybe I'm being too loud or something. But that was the first dealing I had with a police officer. Okay. So the next time was probably a couple years later. Not probably very much longer after this, though. I would say maybe a year or two later. I was driving home from work one night. I was working at Dollar Tree. So I'm driving home probably like 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. I'm getting about 3 miles from my house. There's like a turnoff to my town. There's like the main road, and then there's like the road that just goes into my tiny little mountain village. So I turn on that road. Police car, there's a minivan behind me, and there's a police car behind the minivan. And we're the only cars on the road. And as soon as we turn to go up to the town, police car, lights, I'm like, okay. I do not know if he's trying to pull over me or the minivan. So I'm going to pull over anyway, because I don't want this to be like, you know, I don't want to just assume. I don't want to assume he's just, oh, well, cop car lighting up behind me. Probably the minivan. I'm just going to go home. Then the minivan pulls over and he's like, pull over on the side of the road right now. I'm like, oh, no. So I just pull over. So it goes cop car, minivan, and then me in the top of this. Cop gets out, goes up, talks to the guy in the minivan first, and then he walks up to me and he points his flashlight in my car and he's like, hi there, are you with this person? Are you with this minivan? And I'm like, oh, no, I have no idea who that is. I just didn't know who you were pulling over. I just wanted to be sure. And he's like, oh, okay. So, all right, you're not with them at all? I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, yeah, thanks for pulling over. I mean, that means a lot. You know, you actually took the time. You didn't, like, just assume. You pulled over. Be careful pulling out. You have a good night. And I was like, okay. So I handled that a little bit better than I handled it with the pentagram and everything. I was just like, oh, okay, yeah, I don't know who these people are, you know? So, and even though I genuinely did not know who these people were that he pulled over, I also kind of felt like I was, like, selling them out or something. Like, I don't know who these people are. I don't know. I've never seen these assholes before. And I just drove away, even though I genuinely had no idea who they were. You know, and I don't even know, they might not have been assholes. They might have just been pulled over. Maybe they had a tail light out or something. It doesn't have to be anything for anything major. I did assume, though, maybe he might have pulled them over for tailgating, because just the fact that we were all that closely bunched together, the minivan was kind of on my ass, and then so maybe the cop car pulled him over for tailgating because we were all kind of close together there. So, yeah. But anyway, that was the second dealing I had with the police. Not much of a story there, but it was something that kind of got palpitations there because I thought that was going to be the first time I got a ticket. That didn't happen until a couple years later. So now this happened in May of 2017, so actually about probably 3 years ago, roughly. I was driving to my friend Casey and Zach's apartment. We were going to hang out. We were going to play some, I don't know, probably some, wait, was that actually... No, that wasn't when we did the Pokemon Master Trainer board game. We were probably just going to do some other stuff that night, you know, play a board game or something else, what we usually did. But I actually have a diagram for this one because it gets a little confusing, just to get understood exactly what was going on here. All right, so here's this little diagram I drew up really quick. Vaguely looks like a penis, but that's not what I'm trying to talk about. All right, so that dotted line at the top of the screen, that is the highway, okay? And then you got the exit off of the highway that loops in that semicircle and then connects to that blue road. The blue road is above the highway, so that part there is like a bridge that goes over it. And how this worked is, you know, in order to get to the town where they live, I get off the highway, take that exit, loop around, get on that road, and then just keep driving until, you know, going to town. Well, here's what happens. So you see that red X? That red X is a stop sign. However, when you pull off on this exit and you get to that stop sign, that blue road, that's a one-way road. So what a lot of people do, and this isn't a good excuse, like everybody else does it, so it's okay. Like, that's not an excuse, but I'm just explaining it. Pretty much what I've seen a lot of people do, me included, for a very long time, not anymore after this, is since it's a one-way road, when you are pulling up close to that red X, all you gotta do is just look to the left. And if there's no cars coming, there's nothing that can conceivably hit you because you're on an elevated kind of bridge and it's a one-way road. So no cars coming in the only direction they can go. So a lot of times people just slow down, or not even slow down. They just look, glance to their left, no cars. They just treat it more like a yield sign and just keep on going. It's a stop sign, in fact. So I do this one night, and I go on this exit, and I look to my left, no cars coming. I'm like, all right, I'm cleared to go. So I think I just slow down, I do not stop, and I just go on the blue road, and right on the bridge where that road goes over the highway, right at the top of the screen there, I could take this off now. On the bridge, on the overpass on the highway, there is a police car parked on the side of the bridge. Like, it's a wide enough bridge so you have, like, the side of it. There's a curb. So he's sitting on his, he's parked on the side, but he's not in his cop car. The police officer is outside of the cop car, leaning against his just trunk like this, staring right down the road at that stop sign, just waiting for someone like me to either just barrel right through it or just slow down a little bit and then just keep going. He's just sitting there on his, like, standing there on, leaning on his cop car, just waiting for it to happen. Waiting for the dumbass to do it, me being the dumbass in this case, and I do it. And here's the thing, though. I didn't even realize I did anything wrong. Because, like I said, this happens so many times. I see so many people just slow down and go, and I've done it so many times. I just, you know, I didn't even realize that the cop car was there watching it. And so the cop, when he sees me coming, he just walks into the middle of the bridge, like right in the middle of the road. He just kind of does this. Just leaning up against his cop car, sees me coming, and just walks in the middle of the road and just points to just pull over right there. And just, that's what he does. So, I still do not know that he pulled me over because I ran a stop sign. I'm thinking this is like a DUI checkpoint or something, like whatever. So I pull over in front of his cop car. He walks over to me, and he's he reminds me of a teacher I had in middle school. A very tall dude, has like ridges in his face, you know, kind of a little older kind of guy wearing glasses. And he looks in my window, and he's like, you know, he does the typical, like, do you know why I pulled you over, son? And, you know, the sarcasm goes to my head, but I don't say it, because this does not look like the kind of police officer you want to be jokey about. And of course, you know, this is the first time I'm actually going to get a ticket, so, you know, play it cool. But I didn't go like, well, you didn't technically pull me over, you pointed me over, but I'm not going to split hairs. I didn't actually say that, God, no. I was like, I was legitimately stumped. I did not know. So I told him, like, I honestly don't know. Like, what did I do? And he's like, you ran that stop sign back there at the exit. And I'm like, oh, and I had this moment of just, like, realization of what I did, and I didn't even try to dispute it, like, what? What, really? It pinged in my head immediately what I fucking did, and I was just like, oh, yep, you are right, I did do that. Yep, sorry, I didn't even realize, I'm sorry. And he's like, all right, well, you know, license, registration, proof of insurance, please. And I'm like, oh, okay, it's the first time this is happening. So, I give him all that stuff, he goes back to his cop car. I'm nervous. I'm shaking. I go into my fucking glove compartment, and my mom comes into my mind, and she's just like, you need to clean out your glove compartment. What if you get pulled over? You can't find anything in this glove compartment. I'm like, don't worry about it. Now I'm like, fuck. I'm not actually saying that, but I'm like, internally, I'm like, fuck. Because there's like a shit ton of old, like receipts from when I get my oil changed and when I go to get my car serviced or whatever. I just cram in my fucking glove box. Don't do that, by the way. And so I have this giant envelope with just a bunch of shit, and I'm like, it's in there. So the cop's like, all right. So he takes it and he goes back to his cruiser. seems like it takes fucking forever when they're back there too. You know, it takes like, you know, I think it only was like honestly like 5 minutes, but it felt like fucking 50. And I'm sitting there with my hands on my wheel, and I'm really nervous, and I'm not moving. Like I'm like kind of nervous. I'm thirsty. I have my iced tea right there in my cup holder, but I'm like, should I reach over? I'm like, nope, not even take my fucking hands off the wheel. Not even gonna fucking do it. I'm here until the heat death of the universe, basically. Finally, after what seems like forever, he finally walks over, and I'm thinking, like, I'm sitting there in my car for an eternity, waiting there. I'm like, well, I don't have any single priors ever. I've never been issued a ticket or even a warning for anything. Maybe I'll get off with a warning. Maybe he'll let me go. Maybe he'll see I'm kind of nervous. And for a moment there, I thought, oh, maybe I can play it up like, because I look young, maybe I could play it up like I'm a nervous, like, you know, I'm like an 18-year-old kid that's never had to deal with the police. But then I remember, dumbass, he's got your license. He knows how old you are. You know, it's like, that's not gonna work. Like, I'm sorry, I'm just a humble high school student. I'm like, dude, he has your fucking license. I would have been, May of 2017, I would have been 24 at this point. Yeah. He's like, he knows how old you are. You're not gonna fool him. I'm like, shit, all right. Well, that's out the window, right? That's out the window. So I'm sitting there thinking, I guess I just have to hope that I get a warning. So he comes back, he gives me everything back, and he gives me a ticket. And he was really nice, though. He gives me the ticket, but he explains everything to me, and he's like, okay, I'm issuing you a ticket because you ran that stop sign. Here's how everything goes, and he's like laying it out for us. Like, if you want to dispute it, you can go to the courthouse, and you can dispute the ticket and stuff like that, or you could just pay it here. And I go over everything with him, like, oh, okay, so I can just pay it? And he's like, yeah, you can just pay it. It's fine. You just mail it to this address, blah, blah, blah. Make sure to do it by this time and whatever. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, all right, well, just, you know, drive safe, pull out carefully. I'm like, okay, cool. And he went back to his cruiser. And, yeah, I didn't try to do anything clever. Like, I was like, because once again, sitting there for so long, you start to think, like, maybe I could, make him laugh or something. Like, I was like, are you a fan of One Piece? I'm like, no, I don't think that would have worked. And even if he looked like a younger guy, like about my age, that might be into, like, anime or YouTube or whatever, I still probably wouldn't even bring it up. Like, if he noticed me, he's like, are you Tekking 101? I would have rolled with it, but if he's not bringing it up, I'm not fucking bringing it up. I'm not. And once again, this guy, he didn't seem like an asshole cop. He just seemed like, he was a really serious, by the book kind of guy. Don't joke with him. That's the impression I kind of got from him. These guys been on the force for a while. So, I was just like, yeah, I don't remember his rank or anything, but yeah, he gave me everything, and I pulled out, and I got to Zach and Casey's, and I, like, knocked on their front door, and they answered it, and I, like, sorry I was late, and I just slapped the ticket on their, like, right in their screen door. I'm like, here's why I'm late. I'm like, ha, you got a ticket. I'm like, yeah. And I was talking to Zach about it that night, and he was just like, yeah, my mom, whenever she gets one of those, she always disputes it. She always goes to the court and argues and disputes it. And I'm like, I'm not doing that. I'm just going to pay it. I felt, because I'm like, I did genuinely run a stop sign. But now I'll tell you, every single time I'm now going on that road, I am 130% careful. I stop right at that fucking stop sign every damn time. Even if there's no traffic, even if it's like, midnight and I'm driving home or whatever, I stop there and I'm, nope, we good? We all right? Mm-hmm. Okay. Are we sure? Absolutely. Okay. Even if it's only a one-way road, I'm checking this way in case any drunk people are driving in the opposite direction. All right, we good? No triathlons, no marathons running through this, no deer, no falcon that decided to land in the middle of the road. All right, we good? All right. Very slowly. So that's the only time in my life I ever got issued a ticket. And let's see what else. Oh, okay, this isn't much of a story, but this is the last time I had to deal with the police, not barring today, which didn't really involve the police at all. They didn't stop me or anything. But this was only a couple months ago. This was probably back in, I think, November or December. I was driving home from it had to be earlier than that, I think like October. I was driving home from a football game. One of my friend's little brothers plays on, high school football, and I'm a good friend of the family, so I always go to the football games and, have a good time. I'm driving home. And I decide, it's one of those things where there's like 2 or 3 different ways I could go home, and I choose to go this way. I'm like, I'll go this way today. So I drive home that way. Just so happens the way that I decided to go had a DUI checkpoint, of course. Now, I don't drink, so not a problem, but I'm like, great, I have to go through this now. I've never been through one of these before. I'm like, all right, well, whatever. It was funny because as we were approaching the DUI checkpoint, there's like signs that say, be prepared to stop, checkpoint. there was a truck in front of me that screeched to a dead stop and then turned around in somebody's driveway. I'm like, nope, 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 not doing it. And then, whoop, and I'm like, should I follow his lead? But then I thought, no, I'll just keep going. So, you know, I was like, because the truck was like, so as he said, nope, 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 not dealing with this bullshit tonight. And I don't know if he was actually drinking or if he just didn't want to deal with it, but he turned around. So then I'm like, all right, well, whatever. And I keep going. So I get into the DUI checkpoint line. Once again, police officer comes up to me and he's like, you know, I'm going to need your, he points his head and he looks around. He's like, you drinking anything tonight, anybody? And then there's like another cop behind him that's looking in my backseat. All I had in my car at this point was like my hoodie and some iced tea and my cup holder, and that was it. And they're looking through the windows and everything. And, he asks me once again, I'm going to need your license, I'm going to need your license, insurance, and everything. And I still haven't cleaned out my goddamn glove box. I have since then. It's clean. It is spotless right now because I finally had enough of this shit. And I went through and I just fucking, okay, threw out everything. I'm like, okay, I'm keeping only the registration and like the user manual in there. And maybe some extra shit. Like I have like a box of Band-Aids in there in case you get cut or something. But it's beyond that my glove box is pristine now. Finally, fool me, I mean, catch me twice on this with my pants down. So I open the glove compartment, he wants to see my registration, and I'm like, shit. So it was funny, though, because I think the cop could tell immediately, I'm not drunk, I'm not high, I'm not doing anything, because he's like, all right, I'm me. I mean, he looks in the car, and there's nothing in the car. So I'm fumbling with this envelope trying to find my registration. I'm like, oh shit, that one's expired. Oh, I'm sorry. And he's just like, it's okay. I don't need to see it. It's all right. And he just hands me back my license and just tells me to pull ahead. That's all he just says. License, registration. Here's my license. I don't know where this. Yeah, it's okay, kid. It's all right. Here's your license back. It's all right. Be safe. Just pull forward. And I'm like, okay. So he's just like, listen, I got a lot of other cars tonight. Let's just move it forward. It's cool. You're fine. So yeah, that was the first time I had to deal with a DUI checkpoint anyway. But yeah, those are the only times I've ever had to deal with the police. Relatively, I drive safe, except for that one time I ran a stop sign, which I'm very careful of now because that happened once. And I think the ticket, it was like $150 or something I had to pay, something like that. I can't remember exactly. It was like 3 years ago, but yeah. So you get older and you get a little bit more wiser every year, and then it's just like, all right, I'm gonna be a little bit more careful now, be a little bit more wary of traffic signs and stuff, because that was my fault. It was a stop sign. Just because I think like, oh well, I don't need to stop here. It's like, it's a stop sign, you gotta stop, that's the law. It's kind of like the same thing with like, well, other people speed and they don't get pulled over. I'm like, yeah, I'm sure at some point in our life we've all been over the speed limit and we just get lucky and there's no cops around and nothing else happens bad, but, every now and then, something bad could happen. You could get into an accident, or there could be a cop. So, bottom line, just don't speed. There you go. So, yeah. Let me know below if there's any stories about, police or anything that you would want to share. If you don't want to, of course, it's fine. But let me know. Thought this would be a cool idea for a video. Was that 28 minutes? I got 28-minute video out of this. See? I can draw out the best of them. All right. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed. This will be Tekking signing out. Now, next time, I'll go into Barry's criminal record, and that one is an intense story. That might be here for a few hours, days, going over his little line. Like Rick Sanchez. Rick Sanchez, he has a pretty long rap sheet, but damn, Barry, that makes that into shame. All right, later, everybody.